What's up, everyone? You can see this episode's a little different. I am at Hobby Lobby, and we are going to be building a miniature waterfall into an Aquascape Patio Pond, and we're going to show you how. Hey everyone, what's up? It's Tim from Garden State Koi. First of all, I want to wish everybody a happy new year. And second of all, I want to let you know that this episode is totally different than all the rest. We are building a miniature waterfall, and it's going to be dumping into an Aquascape Patio Pond. Everything's going to be scaled down small. Normally we work with big boulders and regular sized trees, but this time we're going to have to think of different minds, you know? You got to think everything's small and relative to each other. So if a rock is this big, a tree can only be this big. We're going to try to make a scene dropping into the aqua basin. This will be my first time ever doing something like this. In the past, I've done many different things like garden shows and flower shows. We'd have to scale it down for the booth or whatever like that, but nothing down to this miniature. When I mean small, it's gonna be small. I think the drops are gonna be roughly probably about 1 inch tall each, and we're gonna have about 400 gallons per hour of flow. We'll be able to regulate that with a little manifold down in the aqua basin, and I'm going to show you all that in this video. So let's go check out where this is going to be built. It's going to be built actually inside a shed, so you're going to be able to replicate this in your office, in your house, or even on top of your patio. You could even be creative and set the patio pond in a hillside and build a little miniature waterfall in the soil. And then you could actually plant some real plants around it, because today a lot of the stuff we're going to be using is going to be artificial. We picked up tons of stuff in Hobby Lobby. It was a great time. I got some artificial plants, I got some fake moss, and then last but not least, I had to pick up some hot glue. This is gonna be more like model building than your regular backyard waterfall, so we're gonna be able to cheat a little bit. It should really help us out when stacking those boulders up, especially because they're gonna be really small. Everything is about scale in this project. I cannot wait to get started. So I had to stop for a second stop, and I stopped at the local Lowe's Home Improvement in Chester, New York. They had something really special left over from Christmas, some miniature evergreen trees. And since it's after the holidays, they marked these down for me to $5. That is so awesome, because these trees are gonna look like they're 40 foot tall. So something else we got here at Lowe's was some burlap, and you'll see that used later on to cover the aqua blocks. So after shopping at a whole bunch of different stores, I am back at Garden State Koi, and you can see the rock pile behind me. We got tons of different boulders, but we're looking for small stuff. Remember, this is a miniature waterfall. I'm gonna go search through that pile to see what I can find. There's gotta be something in there. When building something like this, we sure need the right rocks. And I picked through this all, and I found some cool ones. Kind of got a waterfall placed, and guess where it is? It's in the back of my pickup truck. So I don't know if this is going to be the exact waterfall, but I started placing some boulders. And just for scale, there is my thumb. That is a tiny spillway rock where water will crash down behind all through here. I don't know if that's going to be it, but that sure looks awesome. Behind here, you can see a whole bunch of sticks and twigs that I gathered too. Nice moss and lichens on them, and we're going to use those in the waterfall as well. That's going to act as our bigger logs that we would use normally when we build a big waterfall. We just had to scale it down a little bit. So the area that I chose was right over there. It's inside a shed located along one of our display ponds here at Garden State Koi. It's gonna be a nice area that you can sit on that couch right there and really enjoy the sounds of this little miniature waterfall. So one of the first things we're gonna have to do is make a nice little stand here in the corner. And today I'm gonna be using aqua blocks. When we're using aqua blocks around the shop for any kind of projects, we always like to recycle. So these are some used aqua blocks I found here at the design center. And we're gonna stack those in such a way that we're able to put the patio pond on top and then have an area to build the waterfall. And we're gonna also try to cover some of the block with this burlap material that I picked up from Lowe's the other day. Really kind of matches the rustic feel of inside this building. When you're going to do this, you might want to use other stuff, whether it's a wooden table, you might want to build it outside in the dirt. There's many ways you could do these little miniature waterfalls into these aqua basins. Here I'm gonna be using the aqua blocks and cover them with burlap. Once you got the aqua block in place and covered, I left the back exposed. Later on, we'll cover those, but for now, we're gonna leave those exposed and we'll hide them later. You're gonna wanna take your patio pond. This is an Aquascape small square patio pond, and we're gonna sit it in there just like that. The next step is gonna be getting the pump housing mounted inside the patio pond so you have access for your pump. For this application, we normally use an Aquascape pump vault. But because we are doing a miniature pondless waterfall into an aqua basin, this is going to actually be pondless where the water disappears in the gravel. We're going to be using a small round irrigation box to house the pump. This is going to sit down right inside here, and we're going to have to do a little cutting so it sits in the corner. I want it over here and not in the middle, because if it's in the middle, the problem will be is that the waterfall is going to be flowing in that area and it's going to mess up the design. So using an orbital cutter, I was able to cut a section out of the irrigation box. I needed to do this so it could fit around the shelf that's inside the patio pond. Let's see if it fits. A few little adjustments and we should be all good. This is the Aquascape pump that we'll be using. I just cut a little bit around on this irrigation box. If you don't use an irrigation box, you might want to find something else for a housing. But what this allows is for us to access the pump down below later on. Remember, this is going to be a pondless, so the top of the patio pond is going to be covered with gravel. The next step is to drill a hole into the irrigation box. That hole is going to be needed for the plumbing to go run from the pump up to the waterfall area. Right here is where I need to drill it. Look at that. I need a battery. We're back at it. And I matched this already up to my hose size so the diameter of the hose can fit through that hole. The pump will sit down below. We'll have a lid on top of this thing, and it should work out pretty nicely. Your hole diameter should look something just like this, so the plumbing fits right inside, nice and smoothly. We'll also be drilling a hole in the container up above later on, so keep the drill out because you're going to need it for the next couple of steps. So we have the ball valve mounted to the Ultra 400 pump, just in case we need to slow the waterfall down. I'm going to cover up with the lid, and then our next step is to get a piece of aqua block to sit in here. I have some bricks that'll sit there and a piece of grated aqua block, kind of that looks like that. And we're gonna cut it to size. That way we could turn this patio pond into a pondless. So now we got the irrigation box in place and the piece of aqua block. It's not big enough to cover the whole entire patio pond, so in those corner edges over there, I am gonna fill that in with some kind of material, most likely rolled up underliner, and form a dam so my gravel can't fall down below. I'm getting really excited because I'm about to cut the piece of styrofoam for back here, and then once I get that cut and mounted into place, you could use plywood, you could really use anything. I had this laying around the store. It's foam insulation. If it does get wet somehow, it will not rot and it'll serve the purpose. So we're gonna use that back in here, and we're gonna also use that for lifts for the waterfall. You'll see later on, I'll be able to poke some plants into the foam and actually make little bushes out of artificial plants. So we're almost ready to build the waterfall, and I'm getting super excited. We got everything leveled up to the patio pond here, so we can start construction. I can't wait to start placing the plants and also the little biofall thing I'm gonna make. That's where this hose is gonna go. We also have to get a piece of liner to drape from this patio pond up into the waterfall. That's going to control the water from the top of the waterfall down and back into this reservoir. Stay tuned because this is going to really start getting awesome. If you like what you see on our channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. It means a lot to me and my team. So this is what we're going to be using for a waterfall spillway. It's actually a matching container to what I just changed those evergreens into. The reason I changed those evergreens were for two reasons. One's to match the height of the spillway, and number two was I wanted a little more soil for when they start to grow a little bit. In order to get the water up into the spillway, I'm gonna have to drill another hole into the container. That way I can feed that rubber hose inside. This will all be sitting on top of the liner, so if this connection here leaks a little bit, it's not gonna be the worst thing in the world. We'll actually put a little foam sealer around it, and it should keep it pretty watertight. The next thing we need to do, which is very, very important, is to cut a spillway out of the container. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put my hose into my container. I want my container to sit all the way back here, just like that. Also, no matter what waterfall you design, whether it's a miniature one like here or a big giant one, that should be always twisting and turning. Don't want the waterfall straight. It doesn't look natural. Now let's cut the spillway out of the container. I'm gonna come down probably about an inch or so and cut down here, and I'm gonna do an opening roughly about 4 inches wide. That way when I put my frame boulders, just like we do on a regular project, we can hide the container and have a nice beautiful spilling waterfall falling out of here. One thing that's going to be tricky is we're going to have to disguise the top, but with a lot of stuff that I picked up before with the moss and the logs and maybe even putting a rock inside, we should be able to hide this thing beautifully. Before I cut, one last measurement just to make sure. I'm going to take my marker and mark the front just like that. Once again, take the orbital cutter. You could probably use a razor blade. So now you have a nice little spillway for the water to flow out of. This will all be hidden with rocks, and then the plumbing can go right in there. I'll cut the hose to size, and then inside the container right there, I'll put some foam sealant. That way the water can't leak out. It'll still leak out, but at a very, very slow rate. Another thing you might want to use would be plumber's putty. I don't have any on hand right now, but that would be nice to put around there and seal that up. If you really wanted to, you could epoxy it, but it's not necessary. Before we do all that with the plumbing, I'm gonna go get my piece of liner and lay it in here so I don't forget, and then this will sit on top. We'll wind up wrapping everything in that liner so we can direct the water back down into the patio pond, and utilizing some Aquascape foam, we'll be able to seal up between the rocks. We will be building the waterfall shortly. First, we just gotta get a little bit of these mechanical steps taken care of. Started placing boulders. We already got those plants up in the background, spillways in there. We got that plumbing line which comes up right around over there into that spillway box. I set a rock inside that spillway box for two reasons. One, to give a nice backdrop to the waterfall, and second is to hold that spillway in place right now. This is my first frame boulder. I saw this yesterday and I said, wow, that's gonna be really awesome. I love the moss and I love the size of it. It's like a huge rock. And then the tree up on top. I'm gonna be placing another frame boulder in over here on this left side. And remember, our ultimate gap right here, due to the pump is small, is roughly about 2.5 to 3 inches. I was looking in the pile before. I don't know if that'll go in there like that. It could even sit back inside if we really wanted it to. So I gotta play around a little bit with the rocks and try to get the right position so we have a nice spill falling out of this container. It's gonna fall this way, meander along the front here, and then fall again into the container. It'll be a 2-drop waterfall. This right in here will be a nice little pooling area. Should turn out really, really cool. So after taking a little break and looking at this, I'm thinking that that rock inside that biofall area, spillway thing, needs to go back in the depths. So it looks like a big rock back there. So what I'm gonna do is put a lower rock in front, so when you look at it, it has a nice layering effect to it, and that's not protruding up right behind the waterfall. Another thing I'm gonna do is try to work to fill out this area here and build another waterfall up there. So that's a 2-tier drop. It's gonna wind up falling. This rock's slanted a little bit this way, so it'll spill over that edge. I also gotta start tucking the edges around here, bringing that liner up so the water's contained. We're gonna switch that over and have the waterfall drop in here. It's gonna run along the basin and finally disappear right over in this area here. Remember, that's where our pump is. We're gonna actually put a rock on top of that so we can access the pump easily just by removing the rock and that lid. I just want to talk to everybody a little bit about rock choice. When you're building a medium waterfall or even a big waterfall, it doesn't really matter. It's all the same, but it's all on scale. So the same kind of rocks you look for a bigger waterfall, where this has a nice sharp edge and it also has some interesting shape to it. Nice and flat on the top if positioned this way. And then it also slants back. I don't know if everybody can see that. It actually slants back. So when the water goes to fall off this, it falls off nice and beautiful. This rock here is going to be the upper drop of my waterfall. Stand back here and you can kind of see what's going on here. So these are little sticks and logs that I got in the woods with nice lichens on it. You know, really cool. We're going to utilize these as areas for water. I added some moss back before, so I gathered some nice moss from out in the woods as well, but added that in little cracks and crevices to fill it in, to blend in with that. We're going to do the same up in here and also add some bushes. I also moved the rock that was inside the container. I didn't really like that. It was bothering me, so I put it back there for some depth and put this one down in front a little lower. Now it gives us a nice feel of layering going into the back. Might pop a little rock in over here, and then we're going to start adding those bushes in later on. This spillway rock, I got to get in position. It's going to sit right back in here. Just so everybody knows, I've been filling behind those rocks there with some 3/16, something like that. And this is a crushed stone. It's nice because it interlocks together and it allows you to build sturdiness. When we're building out on a regular project, we normally use 3/4 inch stone, but here we're using the smaller 3/16, I would say it is. And that's what's filling back in here, and that's what's gonna allow me to stack my next rock. So I'm just gonna take a quick moment just to review what I've been working on. I know that's a little fast. If you want, you can go back and slow that down, see it a little more in detail, but I have a lot more work to do, and I wanna fit it in one video. Let's go take a closer look at what we just accomplished. I got one more waterfall to build, but so far it's coming out awesome. If you can see, we're building this just like we would do in the backyard, utilizing bigger boulders on the outside as our frame boulders. They're also helping hide those containers in the back. And then I got a series of rocks here that are spill stones. We got one right there that it's going to spill over. It's going to pull up a little bit, then fall off this one here and slide down that and kind of crash off that as well. The stream's going to wander this way. I put this big boulder in front of us here. That is actually covering that pump and is going to act as the side of the stream. Right where you see this plant, let me get that out of the way. We're going to have a waterfall pouring in right there, and we'll block it off over this way, and we'll add some more planting areas. These fake plants that I got, I also have some with some pink and purple flowers. They really look awesome filling in the area in between those natural spruce trees. We got our pipe down in there. I don't know if you can see them squeezed all the way down below, so that's gonna well up and it comes spilling out of there. That was a really exhausting day one. A lot of little work went into this little small waterfall, but it's sure looking awesome. I cannot wait till tomorrow morning to get back here and to get this thing up and flowing. I gotta add some water to it. Probably about 10% of the project left to do, but that's the most important, the final touches. So it's gonna take a little bit of time to make this thing absolutely perfect. So I'll see you all tomorrow morning back here getting ready to build this thing. Hey, what's up everyone? We're back at it. Day 2 here, and we got a lot of stuff done yesterday. A little more than I actually expected since this is my first time building one of these. I think this thing's gonna look really awesome. The path of the water starts all the way up here, flows over these boulders, crashes over this one, kind of pulls up in this area here, and then flows over this log. This area here is on top of the basin. I foamed it up so it's gonna be a little stream, and then it will disappear right here in the corner. We have a lot of work still to do today. I gotta hide a lot of the stuff, like the containers over there. We still got some liner showing over here. And then we wanna go through and remove any kind of chunks of foam like this. We wanna get rid of that. Out in the field, we call this the final 10%. It is super important when you're doing a project to have that all done. I would say I got 5% left, because a lot of the details of the logs and the moss and the little plants here are done, but everything's not perfect. So I'm gonna finish that up, fill this up with water today, and we're gonna get this thing running. I am super excited. One of the ways to hide the containers on the outside like this from the front viewing area. Remember, people are not gonna be looking at this from the side. So you can use a little bit of spray glue. I don't know how long this is gonna actually stay here, so I don't wanna glue that together. But you can use a little spray glue or the hot glue that I said that I got at the hobby store and glue that on there. That'll allow you to hide the front of that container from the main viewing area. My plan is when the spring comes around, because this is outdoors right now, we're gonna add some flora on the outside. Maybe some container ferns, some annual plants, and that way this will be all planted like a little garden in here. It'll also take away from this volcano look here and slant that down a little bit. I gotta hide this liner here, so I'm gonna fill that in with a pea gravel. We've been using this in the stream and up in the pooling areas. I'm gonna use it to go around those flowers. Right in here like that. And since there's a lot of moss in the future already, I'm just gonna leave this gravel pouring out of the stream like we normally do. We would call that like a beach area or like a washout. There's a couple little spots here I gotta take care of, and a couple spots over on the corner. Now this moss here, don't forget, is the bag moss. It will live without water. The stuff that I use, the real moss areas, is where it's gonna get damp from the stream running down. When you're doing this last 5% of the project, you really gotta look closely. I see an area here that I gotta add some more gravel in, right, to make that look right. I got a little foam here I gotta cut out, you know, right in this area. One thing I think I'm gonna add behind this is some blue sky. When you take a close-up picture, it really looks like my buddy said, Franco, a Colorado mountain stream. So what's up everyone? I think this thing is pretty much perfect, and the next step is for me to clean up my mess. I want to make sure everything's cleaned up around here, and then I'm going to fill the basin up with water. Once I plug this in, I want to be able to sit down and relax and check it out. I cannot wait to see what this looks like with up-close photos. Don't forget everybody, I also still have to add that blue sky backdrop here right in this area. So when I get up-close photos, you don't see that wood paneling. That's gonna make or break the photographs. Got the water in the waterfall here. This is gonna be the first time for us plugging it in. There we go, I hear the water now. Wow. That is really cool. There it goes, right down the log, through the stream, disappear right in the reservoir there. That came out super cool. Here's a quick little view of that pump fault I made out of the irrigation box. There's my manifold down there, which will allow me to turn the waterfall up and down. And here's the lid that closes over it. All I had to do is remove that big rock on the basin to access it. And man, did that sure come in handy, because I did have to lower the flow on this bad boy. First of all, I hope you really enjoyed this episode. It was really fun for me to build this little miniature waterfall. I really like a couple of aspects. One of my favorite parts is the use of these trees and logs that are just laying on the ground in the forest. I literally walked out in the woods, picked them up, thought they had some interesting character, and the diameter was the right scale. That is super important. Actually, me and Brian, the social media guy, talked about the diameter of this tree compared to the size of those trees in the back. So working on this thing was really, really neat, totally different, definitely not back-breaking. This was the excavator right here, moving the rocks around. And all in all, I think it came out really, really cool for a small patio pond. Don't forget, you could do this inside your office, in your basement, or even in your backyard. You could have a little hill of soil here and build this right into the soil, falling right down into the patio pond here. So if anybody has any questions, don't feel to reach out to us at Garden State Koi about this project. We've been more than willing to help you. Thank you for watching this video. If you like what you saw today, don't forget to hit the like button, press the subscribe button, and ring the bell. It means a lot to me and my team here at Garden State Koi. Thank you, everybody. Tune in next week for a new video.